What's up, world? I'm Cameron McKinney, and this is Pop Culture Spotlight, a podcast about the movie Marty Supreme. Here's a quick synopsis. In 1950s New York, Marty Mauser believes himself to be the next big thing in table tennis. The film stars Timothee Chalamet, Gwyneth Paltrow, Odessa Azion, Kevin O'Leary, Tyler Acoma, Abel Ferreira, Fran Drescher, and Luke Manley. Standout performances. Timothee Chalamet over the last few years has proven he can play your prototypical leading man roles. King Henry V in The King, Paul Atreides in the Dune movies, and Willy Wonka in Wonka. In all three of those, he plays a protagonist you root for the entire film. His last two roles, he's really challenging himself and his own likability as a movie star, first with playing the not-so-humble Bob Dylan in A Complete Unknown, and now as a table tennis player, Marty Mauser, in Marty Supreme, who believes in his own words, it's his purpose to be great. I, for one, am very impressed by the fact that Chalamet has already gotten to this point in his career before turning 30 years old, and what's great about it is he's gotten to a place where people will follow him to these kinds of movies. What the movie Marty Supreme is getting at is this is an individual that does not see himself as a regular person and obsesses over his craft in favor of his personal relationships. He reminded me of Jesse Eisenberg's Mark Zuckerberg in The Social Network and Miles Teller's Andrew Neiman in Whiplash. Marty thinks he's bigger than the situations he puts himself in. As of right now, I don't believe that Timothée Chalamet gives the best performance of his career in Marty Supreme, but it is right up there. For most modern audiences, seeing Gwyneth Paltrow in a movie like this is going to be jarring. She's Pepper Potts in the MCU and the CEO of Goop. But before all that, she was dominating the 90s with turns in 1995's Seven, Hard Eight and Emma both in 96, her Oscar-winning role in Shakespeare in Love in 98, and The Talented Mr. Ripley in 99. I love her in those movies, but my two favorite of her roles are Margot Tannenbaum in Wes Anderson's The Royal Tannenbaums. It's of course become iconic. Her and Luke Wilson are great together, and Michelle in James Gray's Two Lovers. She's very chaotic and fun and sad in this movie. If you like her as an actress, you need to watch the movie Two Lovers. In Marty Supreme, the Oscar winner fittingly plays Kay Stone, a former movie star who is returning to acting, and for whatever reasons, begins a fling with young Marty. And I think it's because he takes himself seriously, and she takes herself seriously. These are two people who judge themselves based on their careers and not as human beings. Prior to Marty Supreme, the only other thing I had seen actress Odessa Azion in was the teen Netflix series Grand Army, where she is a standout. And what I loved about her character Rachel in Marty Supreme is you start to feel like her character is one thing, but then there's a turn and a real surprise I won't spoil, but I think it's brilliant. And finally, as a once regular watcher of Shark Tank, I have to say I was impressed with Kevin O'Leary's acting debut in Marty Supreme as businessman Milton Rockwell, who sees potential in table tennis. For the second film in a row, director Josh Safdie got a noteworthy performance from a well-known non-actor. In Uncut Gems, it was Kevin Garnett, and now O'Leary in Marty Supreme. And one could say these two work in these movies because they are playing hyper-fictionalized versions of themselves. Kevin Garnett is literally playing himself in Uncut Gems, but he fits the tone of the movie, and so does O'Leary when it comes to Marty Supreme. Let's get into the movie itself. Yes, many people have picked up on the fact that, like most of his other films, Marty Supreme has the same anxiety-inducing tone that director Josh Safdie is known for. But the real similarities I see comes from the leading characters, starting with Connie, played by Robert Pattinson in Good Time, who is, if I'm being nice, a loser who acts like he knows what's best for his brother. He's got a giant ego and thinks he's better than most people. Next, you have the delusional Howard, played by Adam Sandler in Uncut Gems, who has convinced himself, despite being in debt, that his gambling is going to pay off big time. And that finally gets us to Chalamet's Marty Mauser, who believes he's destined to be the biggest name in table tennis, and his confidence is a little more earned than the other characters. He's a good table tennis player, but he has convinced himself that his life is more important than other people's because he has a destiny. And he has a great scene with Rachel where he basically says all that and tells her that he has a purpose and she doesn't. Calling all of the leading characters in Josh Safdie movies as selfish is a massive, massive understatement, but I really do believe it's why his movies stand out, because he's making movies about these types of characters. Yes, these characters are all super extreme versions of what a human being is like in real life, but I think we can all relate to them on some level. And with the character of Marty, I just think he's taken the notion of, I'm going to act like I'm the best, so people are then going to treat me like I'm the best. And in some ways, it works for him. And that's the scary part of the movie, is that yes, the character does have a bunch of failures in the film, but he's able to get to a somewhat destination because of his uber confidence. It is rewarded in some ways. The movie shows that you can impress people by faking it until you make it, and maybe you don't even have to make it. Another element you see in Josh Safdie movies are bleak endings. While there's some of that in Marty Supreme, I see the ending, which I won't spoil, as his most hopeful ending yet, and some have argued it wasn't earned. I disagree. It's a movie. Characters learn lessons faster than they do in real life. I also just see the ending as symbolic in saying that Marty Mauser's life is never going to be the same. It's not telling you that everything's going to be A-okay from here on in. It's not the happy ending that some critics are making it out to be. You could feel super cynical about the ending if you really wanted to. I just think people are interpreting it as a happy ending because that's what they want to view it as. What Safdie is ultimately telling you is that there are people out there who obsess over something for so long, and then something happens in their life and they realize what's truly important. Maybe you are bothered by that message. Maybe that message is way too basic for a movie like Marty Supreme, but that's how the movie ends, and I'm okay with it, and I understand people not being okay with it, saying that it's out of sync with the rest of the movie. I understand both sides of the argument. I just particularly liked the ending. So last week on this podcast, I talked about how I don't think writer-director Kelly Reichardt is ever going to be able to win everyone over because of her style of filmmaking, and I feel the exact same way about Josh Safdie. He is a bombastic filmmaker. He is in your face. His movies are fueled with adrenaline, and because of their entertainment value, they are going to gain a wider audience than somebody like Reichardt, but I don't ever think that Josh Safdie is going to become as big as somebody like a Steven Spielberg. Because there are some people, not myself, who believe his movies are a little too much. That their own chaotic nature are their ultimate downfall. Again, I disagree with that idea. I love his style. I love his tone. I think those 3 performances I talked about, given by Robert Pattinson in Good Time, Adam Sandler in Uncut Gems, and Timothee Chalamet in Marty Supreme, are brilliant performances and some of the best of the last decade. I guess what I'm saying is I don't think Josh Safdie will ever make his version of Barbie a movie that's going to make $1 billion, because I don't think everyone's on board with his signature style. Another critique that is happening for the writer-director is that there are some people out there who believe he is making the same movie over and over again, and this is a critique that happens when a filmmaker has a signature style. style. You see it with Wes Anderson. They say he is somebody who is just making the same film over and over again, and that he cares about his style more than the substance of his movies. In my opinion, the last three movies are vastly different. Good Time is its own thing, Uncut Gems is its own thing, and Marty Supreme is its own thing. Now, I will say the movie of those three that I think is the best, and one of my favorite movies of all time, is the movie Good Time. It's the movie that had me realize how good of an actor Robert Pattinson is. It's also probably the movie that got him the Batman in the first place. I'm a massive supporter of what Josh Safdie is doing. I think his style is signature and unique, and I don't understand this idea that he should change it up just because you're tired of what he's doing. Why should he do that? Nobody else is making movies like Josh Safdie. He is doing his own thing. The movies he made with his brother and now Marty Supreme are unlike the other modern movies you are seeing in movie theaters, and he's also using A-list stars and having them give performances unlike work they've ever done. I mean, it goes without saying, I don't want Josh Safdie's version of a Marvel movie. At one point, he was linked to make a 48 Hours reboot. I don't want to see that. I want him to make his own kinds of movies that have that signature style and that signature tone. Let's talk about Marty Supreme's Oscar chances. We have definitely gotten to a place where it feels like Timothee Chalamet is going to win an Oscar. I think it should have been for his work as Bob Dylan, but I'm not mad it's going to be for Marty Supreme. He carries the movie in a way no other leading man did this year. He's far and away the best thing about the movie Marty Supreme. And that's why it's time to give Timothee Chalamet an Oscar, because I do think there are other times where an actor wins an Oscar and you go, there were other great performances in the movie that you could argue are better than the ones given by the leading man. No, in Call Me By Your Name, Timothee Chalamet was the best performance in that. He's the best performance in A Complete Unknown, and, like I said, he's the best performance in Marty Supreme. I also think he should have gotten an Oscar nomination for Little Women. It also feels like an Oscar nomination for Gwyneth Paltrow is on the horizon. She's only gotten one Oscar nomination, and it was for her win for Shakespeare in Love. In the past, she obviously should have been nominated for the Royal Tenenbaums as well. I mean, how did that not happen? How did none of the performances in that movie get an Oscar nomination? This is going to happen for two reasons. The first being, Gwyneth Paltrow is great in this movie. The second one being, Hollywood loves a comeback story. It has been a long time since Gwyneth Paltrow was in a movie you can look at and take seriously. I mean, for a while, she's been known as the person who forgets she's in the Tom Holland Spider-Man movies. If it were me nominating the 5 best directors of 2025, Josh Safdie would get an Oscar nomination, but I don't think it's going to happen. I think he is not going to get a nomination. I do think, however, that Marty Supreme could get in there for Best Picture. It feels like it probably is going to do so. Box office. As of this recording, Marty Supreme has made over $68 million, which is impressive. But even more important than that, the movie is in the zeitgeist. People are talking about Marty Supreme. It is relevant to the culture. People have strong opinions about this movie, about Timothee Chalamet, about Gwyneth Paltrow, about Kevin O'Leary, about Josh Safdie. And maybe it's obvious in saying, but the majority of that has to do with Timothee Chalamet being a legitimate movie star. Stop saying that movie stars are dead. Stop saying that Brad Pitt is the last movie star, that Tom Cruise is the last movie star. There is a young guy here, and his name is Timothee Chalamet. Marty Supreme would not be a popular movie without his involvement. People went and saw this movie because it stars Timothee Chalamet. Think about that. How many well-known actors right now, young as Chalamet, could make a movie about a guy playing table tennis that makes this kind of money and is getting this kind of recognition? Uncut Gems starred Adam Sandler, one of the biggest movie stars in the world, and it only made $50 million at the box office. The Chalamet effect on a movie is real. If he is in the movie, people get excited about it, and younger audiences who maybe wouldn't watch a movie like Marty Supreme end up seeing it anyways because it stars Timothee Chalamet. That is the old school definition of a movie star. And that is the number one reason he has become his generation's Leonardo DiCaprio, because every great director wants him to be the star of their movie because it gets people aware of the film itself. That's what the Leonardo DiCaprio effect was on the Martin Scorsese movies. Yes, they were going to be great no matter who was the star of them, but people saw movies like The Wolf of Wall Street because it starred Leonardo DiCaprio. And it's worth noting that I think he is using his celebrity as well to make these movies popular. He had that speech at the SAG Awards last year where he talked about the fact that he wants to be one of the greats. He's become a celebrity fan of the New York Knicks. I think he knows that people care about these things, and I think he's being sincere in his pursuit of them. I just think he is self-aware of what it is like to be a celebrity in the year 2025, and he's using all of that to his advantage, as he should. And there's not a ton of negative reaction about Timothée Chalamet right now, but some of what I'm seeing on the internet is that he's just somebody who is obsessed with winning an Oscar. Why should he not want to win an Academy Award? All of his acting idols have won the Oscars. Heath Ledger won an Oscar. Leonardo DiCaprio won an Oscar. Joaquin Phoenix has an Oscar. Those are the guys that Timothée Chalamet holds in the highest of regards. Why should he not want to be like them? I have never been on board with being critical of an actor who wants to win an Academy Award. It is a part of their field. For that 1 year, they get to represent the highest standard of acting. So yeah, Bradley Cooper should want to win an Oscar. Timothée Chalamet should want to win an Oscar. Why should I care if he's being humble or not? What does that have to do with literally anything? I like what he is doing with his career, and I think he should be rewarded for that. He's making the right choices. I am fully on board with him never playing a superhero role. He has his box office franchise in the Dune movies. He needs to continue to work with writer-directors like Josh Safdie. So as you can tell, I am fully on board with the movie Marty Supreme. I have no real issues with the movie whatsoever. I do think there are some people being prisoners of the moment, calling it one of the greatest sports movies ever. It's possible that it could get there in a few years, but can we give it some time? I mean, it's so hard for me to say that Marty Supreme is better than a movie like The Natural. I'll also admit that I am somebody who will never admit in my lifetime that there is a better sports movie than Moneyball. I just think we are a generation of people who are obsessed with saying that the new thing is better than anything. And what's ironic is that's kind of what the movie Marty Supreme is about. It's about a guy announcing himself as the best table tennis movie ever. And now people are talking about that movie like it's the best sports movie ever. Let the movie breathe for a solid decade, and then we can come back for the debate about the greatest sports movies of all time, and I'm sure Marty Supreme will be in the discussion. I'm also like, why are you celebrating this movie now? It has the chance to grow in stature, especially if Timothée Chalamet ends up winning his first ever Oscar, which I kind of do believe is a given. Like, I would be absolutely shocked if Leonardo DiCaprio wins his second Oscar for One Battle After Another over Chalamet for Marty Supreme. I just think this is going to be the victory that Chalamet has been waiting for, and I'm here for it. Marty Supreme is worth all of the praise. Thanks for listening to this edition of Pop Culture Spotlight. I'm Cameron McKinney, and there'll be a new episode of the podcast every Thursday on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. I highly recommend you check out the film Marty Supreme. Next week on the podcast, I'm talking about Lynn Ramsey's Die My Love starring Jennifer Lawrence and Robert Pattinson. So tune into that and please rate, review, and subscribe.